Hello and welcome to Mostly Minnesota Music Podcast Edition. I'm Ann Tracy. I'm here with my co-host.
Heather Baker.
Yes, and we are with Dustin Tessier from Timbre.
That is
Hello.
me.
Yes,
Hi.
yes.
Thank you for
from
having
Timbre,
me.
also Timbre. I wasn't sure how to say that.
Right. Yeah, it's sort of just the name is kind of like an all-encompassing umbrella for if I want to be a solo artist or work with a band or put out artwork of any media under that name. It makes it easier for me.
It is, and you do a nice job of doing some of all. You have a
Thank you.
wonderful cast of characters that you play with.
Right. I'm trying to ever expand that too. I found that the more collaborative and interesting I can make it, the better. Although we'll get around to talking about this new record that was very um, done in seclusion, not by choice, but the pandemic had a little bit to do with that.
Well, we can just ride that way for a second. So it's
Right.
how did you tell us about it, and we'll talk about Soothsayer and some of the other stuff later. But just
Right.
yeah, well, it's fresh
Well,
in mind.
Soothsayer, that Soothsayer EP that I put out last April, just about a year ago,
Yeah.
was sort of stylistic change in direction. Not really a change in direction, but following a certain way that the songwriting was happening to come out in. It was based on kind of using the simple song format instead of trying to make it complicated and difficult arrangements or interesting chords. I tried to use the template of American roots music as a platform for storytelling versus using a bunch of colorful sounds and telling the story that way. And then I had to be more conscious of actually writing in the narrative or story form. And this new record that I've got in the works is a continuation on that theme of like really simplifying and crafting songs instead of just kind of throwing out any idea. But there's a lot of that happens. But these are the ideas that made it through the machine. Right.
Do you have
And
more?
go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, yeah, and then we get to the year later when I'm talking about this record was done in seclusion. I mean, I guess there's really not any way other than to look at it than calling it a country music record, I guess, or American roots music record. And Soothsayer kind of was a taste of that. And there's a little bit of it on the two previous records too, but this was just like I got to sort of reveal the love affair I've had with country music and honky tonk music since I was introduced to Willie Nelson when I was a year or two old. And, I'm working with a pedal steel player based out of Missoula, Montana. So basically it was just myself and this guy, Eric Rudnick, who did the tracking on the record. And I would have invited a huge cast of characters, but it's difficult to get two people in the same room together right now.
So you were in the same room when you were recording
with him.
with him.
The rest of it was tracked.
Okay.
I've got this method of recording myself that's a multi-layered kind of a deal. And that Soothsayer record was different. That was myself working live with a drummer and kind of being in the flow of, a rhythm section working together. Whereas some of the other stuff is myself playing around, to previously recorded tracks and whatnot. And that's been a learning process that has culminated in this new record, kind of turning out to be like, I think I figured it out, and pretty excited, pretty dazzled by what has come of it. And I can't wait to share it with everybody and anybody who will listen.
That'll be fun to hear. That's exciting. So Al Church was the drummer on Soothsayer. I know his some songs. Was that? Yeah.
That was Al Church. Yep. Yeah. I've known Al for many years. We were Duluth people that didn't know each other in Duluth, and then we met through the music scene in Minneapolis. And boy, he's a character, and I love that guy.
I think of Al, and we've had him on the show before, as being kind of a roll with the punches, improv kind of. Is that how you roll when you're working together? Or?
Absolutely. Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a huge element of I can control when I'm writing and recording by myself. But I mean, conversationally, socially, I'm one of those people that kind of thrives on. I mean, small talk is what is the death of me, and it's really hard to do. And so, the more genuine and having to think on my feet I can be, the better, really. to be quite honest. But Al, yeah, I mean, inspirational. I mean, you know, a person that I could say, hey, I'm thinking of something like this. And then he goes, oh, like this? Like, yep, exactly like that. A seasoned musician through and through.
Yeah.
Good sense of humor too.
I was gonna say when I was listening to it, it has a Whiskey Town sort of vibe, which I was like,
Sure.
I like it. And when you were just speaking, unless I wasn't following you correctly, the way you were saying you were going about writing, were you having more to say than to, throw in a bunch of cool stuff, or what triggered the switching of the pattern or the gears for you?
I think the idea of having more to say, or maybe less to say in a more direct way, telling a story instead of using wordplay to get at a point. I mean, there's still an element of that, but I mean, like that we hear about, like, what is country music? It's 3 chords and the truth, right? So if I can pare it down to simple chord progressions that, maybe with a twist here and there, but if you're giving myself the responsibility of telling a story and hoping that it'll hold people's attention and be entertained by it, right? That's what it's about for me. And, I played in indie rock bands and wrote songs for years where it was kind of more about being obscure and interesting and complicating things when they didn't need to be. And there's a great freedom in kind of letting go of any expectations and then just being like, it's okay if I play these 3 chords that you hear in a lot of songs. What am I doing over the top of it? I mean, how do I make it interesting? How do I make it unique? And so that's been my goal. And it's really liberating to tell stories. And storytelling itself is a huge inspiration, and it's a skill set I wish I had. I'm glad I can do it through songs, but I mean, when somebody can just hold your attention and tell a story and captivate you for 15 minutes, like, I mean, come on. I hope to get there someday, and without taking lessons, but I might, take a storytelling class here sometime.
That would be interesting step in even in songwriting to do something like that, because it's.
I don't think it could hurt.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of classes. I like the storytelling in Soothsayer. Although I get a darker feel overall than I do from some of the earlier work that you've done. I mean, despite the name alone, that song doesn't feel alone. Maybe it feels alone, but not lonely. There's a more positive spin to this,
right,
as compared to, it's
sure,
the Ghost,
sure,
where I haven't seen you smile in days.
Right. Yeah. Right. An interesting twist I try to use lately too is writing sad songs in major keys, right? Instead of like, you go to the minor key to create the mood, which is a great device. I mean, music can be colorful like that, but I mean, I try to make it interesting and something that I'd want to hear over and over again, which, I mean, ultimately, if you can please yourself as an artist, what more do you need? But yeah, I mean, there might be some where some people comment on, like, this is a very sad song, and I understand where that's coming from, but I also recognize to me, I hear it as beautiful, because I get to relish in those feelings. I get to step into that emotional space on the continuum, right, and occupy it and come out of it and have a different set of feelings coming out of it, instead of just occupying the emotion that goes into the song. So there's almost like a transformative thing, like, hey, come in, right? And I think growing up in Duluth, Minnesota has a way of kind of keeping a person with one foot in the dark and one foot in the light. So, I mean, I can jump into that stuff and come back out for inspiration, or, to process things. And I mean, and I think the music follows in that way. And I'm just always surprised when people think stuff is sad. I'm like, I can hear that, but for me, hearing that sadness has the opposite effect. Like that, hearing that lament makes me feel connected. Like, oh yeah. And I'm not saying you don't. I like to, I get that feedback.
Well, it's funny because it makes me think of my sister, who could watch Terms of Endearment over and over and over.
Right.
She loves to be sad. She loves the catharsis of it, and I think there is a catharsis in a lot of your music that is, they're not mutually exclusive, that beautiful and sad.
Right.
And there
That's
is
the
some
thing,
good.
right? I mean, that's the gray area. Right. It's all the gray area. That's, I guess if I had to boil it down to what am I writing music about and why, it's to dwell and explore and process that gray area. Yeah.
I was going to say, especially
But that,
now that we are all sort of in that area, it feels good to have somebody sing and express it and connect us to it and be able to come back out.
maybe now more than ever. I mean, I really, honestly. Yeah. And that song, The Ghost, you're talking about, I mean, that does come from a place of driving around the country by myself late at night in a car, like, what is it all about? I mean, I'm having the time of my life, but also, who am I? What's going on? I'll be home,
Well, and what I like about the Soothsayer, all of the music is you have to slow down to listen to it. So
Right.
I've listened to it before, but of course I was listening to it again today. Well, I was trying to write 3 articles and do this, and it was really an exercise in saying, nope, and I think that's good for now.
Right.
It's especially good now. Not that it's not usually, but I think it's especially, it's a gift to give yourself the time to say, I'm just going to listen to this song now. This song requires it in a good way, and I'm going to be a part of that story.
So that, I think, I mean, that pretty much, that's the end game right there. That anything I could write that somebody would take a minute and say, I'm going to mindfully listen to this thing. Right. I mean, I've won. That's succeeded. It's not even about winning. It's just like somebody gets it, so thank you. And I mean, really, honestly, how much listening do we do mindfully nowadays? Right.
We don't. I mean, and maybe that's one of the weird things about the last year. Sometimes yes, sometimes I guess it depends on the day that's in it, but it's but yeah, but most of the time listen to music in the car, you listen to music while you're exercising, you listen to music but this is like, I'm gonna and not that I don't enjoy music that I can listen to while I work. My work is writing.
Right.
I mean that's a different, that's just white noise. But this is absolutely not that. And a time and a place. But it really, I was walking, I made my friend listen to it while we were walking, and it's
oh man,
it's nice. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So now I'm anxious to hear the new music.
Right. Well, it's a parallel, but also it goes in a different direction too. I mean, there's songs. I mean, there's love songs. There's songs about desire. There's songs about just having a good time and living your life and being all right with where you are in the moment. I mean, it's all over the place. And I tried to, I mean, given the past year, I tried to write a pandemic song, but it didn't come out that way. Not like I intended, at least. But it's on there. You'll have to figure it out you'll get it right away. But yeah, it's on the new record. I don't want to give too much away. I mean, because I hadn't, it's like I have a title and I know when I want to release it and everything, but I've already been sharing it with everybody too. And I'm super, I listen to it all the time. I'm so excited about it.
Is it going where it's going to sound super happy and everyone's like, oh my gosh, when they're coming at you, it's so, all this is so sad. And your pandemic song is rockin' happy, or give us a little, I'm curious.
I'll share some, I'll email you, I'll share a couple songs, but yeah, I mean, it's basically like, if this record is going to be anything, imagine an action movie where there's a big explosion happening and then you see a car coming out of the smoke billowing out of the background and they're just speeding away out of it. Like, that's sort of how it starts, right? For a little imagery, and it doesn't really let up. And, there's some tender, heartfelt music, but there's just some classic, like, honky tonk inspired music. And I can't call myself a country artist by any means, because there's, I think a lot of connotations that go with that, as far as like, being raised in a certain culture, and I can write in a style, and that's definitely where it's gone. I don't know. I mean, I guess kind of.
Is this Montana? I was going to say, is this Montana seeping into you a little bit? more?
yeah. There's a chance. I almost wore a cowboy hat, but I feel good about wearing them now. That's the thing. I don't have to worry about. I mean, they're always been fashionable. They've always looked great. Like a great pair of boots and a nice belt and a hat looks super great. But sometimes I have to consider my surroundings, and I'm like, I don't know. Am I a jerk for wearing this cowboy hat, or am I making a great statement? And so, now I get to be like, I look like all the other ranchers that hang out around here. And yeah, some of it's living. But so I live in a town called Hamilton, and in Hamilton, we're in this place called the Bitterroot Valley. It's south of Missoula. It's lined by two mountain ranges, Sapphires, Bitterroots, and I live here in the spellbinding shadow of these mountains. And the music, of course, started creeping in, but really I think the big change happened with the music. Kind of going in this direction when I bought this acoustic guitar a couple of years back, and songs. I mean, it sounds cliche, but it was like they're plopping out of this guitar as I strum it. Like every idea I'm recording on my voice recorder, because it's like, where are you coming from? And who are you? Right. Right. Who's this? Who are you? But then who am I? What am I doing? Okay, go with it. Right.
Okay, now that you say this, can you back up? You play a lot of instruments.
Mm-hmm.
Starting, or give us a little take, because I think you on one of your albums you were. Oh.
Well, here's this. Here's a little history right here. This is me.
Oh, drum.
Nice.
Right. So I started out as a drummer. I was about 2 years old in that photo.
Nice.
I started out as a drummer, and there were always guitars and things around my house. My dad's a musician. My mom is a huge fan of music, and she has always desired to be a great singer and a performer. And there were instruments around the house. I listened. I mean, the Beatles was the soundtrack of my. I remember being in diapers and listening to Rubber Soul. Drive My Car. Nowhere Man.
Yep.
Those were the and then like the Police and Willie Nelson and Merle Haggard was around, and then George Jones. Before I had a chance to really appreciate George Jones. I mean, this stuff was kind of not in my DNA, but was definitely a part of me. And then, eventually I turned into a teenager and discovered alternative music and punk rock and all this, and then finally learned how to play the guitar and the bass along the way, a little piano. And so now we shoot to today when, I play drums, guitar, sing, bass, piano. I can't say that I'm a piano player though. Somebody can't be like, you go over there and play I need to write the stuff myself and then I can perform it. I can't read music and whatnot, but right. It's been a journey.
Was that what your dad played guitar or drums or? Yeah,
my dad was in the Duluth music scene, was in a lot of these bar bands and whatnot, and was always the bass player, but he was also a guitar player. And so, I didn't really ask for lessons or, asked to be taught anything. I would more or less just kind of be a presence at band practices and was really always observing and paying attention and listening. And I found that it was easier to just listen and learn on my own than to ask somebody how to do something. And I think that's followed through to adulthood now too. It's getting easier to say, I don't know what I'm doing. As a matter of fact, it's gotten so easy to say I have no idea what I'm doing that it's really liberating.
I think you do get to a point in life where, as you said, where you can strip down the music and go with the simple format, and you admit, I don't know what I'm doing, and that really does free you up to do right. Because then if you make a mistake, you've already said, I didn't,
Right. Yeah. Hey, don't blame me. You got the disclaimer. I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm fine with it. Right.
It is. I'm not a musician, but in my own world, I'm like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
this is it.
Right. Yeah. And exactly. That's what I'm talking about too. I mean, maybe playing music is the only time I feel like I kind of know what I'm doing. The rest of the time I'm just like, I'm surprised I'm here too. So let's go for it.
I was going to say, if you are honest and say that to people, then people are more apt to help or support you or encourage you or whatever, rather than, well, they think they know it all or whatever. So I do think that that's a good way.
Mm-hmm. I mean, how many people do you really meet in your lifetime that you could say are experts at anything? I mean, it's really a small percentage, right? I mean, I can think of maybe 2 or 3 people in my life from birth up to now who I would consider like that person is a guru, or they are so masterful at what they do, and the rest of us are just kind of like, I can do a few things. I can make popcorn, Yeah.
Give myself a passing grade on that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So besides the cowboy hat, are the mountains like what compared, because we have interviewed a whole bunch of people from Duluth, and there is something special there. It's amazing how many different really cool musical, and you all like work together. I don't know, it's just a really cool scene. I'm wondering what you've taken from Duluth and what are you getting? I mean, it's not really a fair question for Montana now, but or what is it raising up in you, just yourself, even though you probably can't go out and do your thing, just environmentally?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had a chance to explore. Missoula is the closest place, the closest sort of cultural hub to where I live. It's about 45 miles north. It's a quick drive, a straight shot on the highway, and then you ride between those 2 mountain ranges the whole way and see all these little great towns with sprawling ranches and things like that. What does it do with, I think, I mean, to get to sort of the nugget of what you're talking about is that it's small enough to where there's only so many places to go see music in town, and they're all so close that you kind of just end up seeing everybody's band. You can try to avoid music if you want to, or to avoid specific bands or people, but you're going to end up crossing paths anyway. And so I think a lot of that camaraderie comes from the isolation of the place, and also some of that just genuine camaraderie of like, well, we're all here. And I mean, in my experience, when I was coming up in Duluth in bands and things, it was in high school and whatnot. And then after, and it was sort of like the jam band days, late 90s, early 2000s, when everybody that you can think of from town was in a band that played at least half a dozen to 25 Grateful Dead songs. So at any point, I mean, whether or not that's an awesome thing, any night you could hear a band I was in playing Shakedown Street, and then you hear Eric Pollard's band play Fire on the Mountain, or whatever, and then you'd hear Dave Simonette and those guys and Timmy, and they'd be playing another Grateful Dead song. And so there's this sort of like everybody does their own unique thing, but also there's this connected, I can't even explain it. I mean, could it be the mysticism of that huge lake? Could it be the sort of ghost town, once a bustling center of commerce, now completely vacant and bereft kind of a city? But then, the tech boom happened and it got all big and popular again. So I don't know, but I haven't had a chance to necessarily explore what I bring from Duluth, aside from, I guess, a certain confidence in knowing that the music that I write, I feel like I could put up right next to a song that Al Sparhawk wrote and be like, yeah, I'm here with you, man. I mean, of course, millions of fans around the world might be like, but who are you though? But that doesn't matter. Like, I mean, I love Alan, and I love, knowing that like that's a cohort, and so many people that didn't even grow up there, that, didn't spend years, like Haley came through Duluth and like, just like blew everything up and became super big, and it's, I mean, she's got her own small town kind of hometown story too. And then you've got, coming to Duluth, it was like forces colliding, right? And so I think, just that's what I bring to this area, is knowing like, here's where I came from, and it's a huge story in my life, and I can spill it out onto a page or into a microphone. So that's my answer. That's what I bring from Duluth.
Well, I just didn't know. Well, go ahead.
I've never actually had to think about what do I bring from a perspective as a person that's doing creative things. Like, how does Duluth relate to that? And there's so many ways. I mean, but I think right now in my current life, that's the one. Like, I feel like, yeah, my people. I'm just a little bit farther west than those people.
So besides the car driving through the big explosion and and I think I saw that you had some new leather strap made by a certain someone
Savannah
that we
Smith.
know. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
You're
There's not any managerial, I can't say like, like, hey, don't, she's a big deal though. I mean, she's an amazing.
Yeah.
Turn is amazing. She does fantastic leather work. Seven Sons Vintage.
Yeah.
I mean, Claire Johnson, like, this is a person who is prolific in their creative endeavors. And I would consider putting together a really hip vintage thrift store. Then the way it's laid out, that's like art. It's not just like, I went into business. This person, I mean, that team, they really cultivated this amazing little piece of culture in Eau Claire, in a city that obviously has its range of culture already. It's really on the map, but they just put, she put the unique stamp on it, and the music, her music says it too.
So when you were talking about that earlier, though, do you have something sort of cooked up in your head of videos, since everybody's kind of trying to capture our attention since there's no shows? Or just you seem like you have, excitement of stuff rolling out.
I do, yeah. I mean, the stimulus payment that everybody received that was eligible might help to finance a camera. I've got a lot of ideas, and as is kind of my MO, lots of ideas and very little technical ability. So sometimes really cool mistakes happen, and I'm always, I have learned to really embrace those, because sometimes you hear a mistake and that's the most brilliant piece of, whether it's a painting or it's a poem. If somebody is speaking and they use a word the wrong way or overemphasize a weird vowel, like, you remember that, and it can become a meaningful piece of that dialogue or that song or that piece of art. And so I think, I've tried to mess around with some video stuff, and I've got ideas for songs, as far as videos go. And I think the greatest barrier is just resources, plain and simple, money, but I won't let that get me down or stop me.
No. So look, you do have the video for Lay Low, and did you work with Jeremy Elsevacher on that one?
Yep. Yeah. There's a fantastic person. And speaking of Jeremy, when I was writing this record, specifically when I was playing guitar solos, I was thinking on a couple songs of, conversationally, if I were having a guitar solo conversation with Jeremy, what would make sense to him? What would I say to him? Or in some cases, I mean, Willie Nelson playing a little jazzy country run on his fantastic guitar. Some solos, I should say, this record has guitar solos and pedal steel solos on it, right? Some of those, I was thinking also the same thing, like, what would I say to Willie Nelson if I had the opportunity to play a guitar for him and communicate something, So interesting that you mentioned Jeremy. Yeah, there was, I haven't told him that yet. I should text him and let him know. But
well, and Jeremy's
I can't text Willie.
No, well, you could try. You never know.
I've tried.
Oh,
I mean, well, I've not actually literally tried texting him, but tried to communicate a message through social media and and through a friend of mine, and tried to elevate it, because there's a long interwoven tale of the importance of that person's music in my life. So.
May we have the abbreviated long interwoven tale?
I wish I had the photo, but when On the Road Again came out, it was 1983, right? I was 4, living in Colorado. We moved out to Colorado for 2 years. I think my head exploded the first time I heard it. And so my family, we lived in a trailer house next to my grandpa and step grandmother in their trailer house. And he drove an old Dodge pickup truck or whatever, old GMC, and wore vests and had a trucker cap, and and always had a Miller Lite. And I wanted to be like that. And then I heard Willie Nelson, and I swear my mind just blew up, and I would sing along to that song. And there's this a great photo that my mom took of me singing along with a microphone plugged into the stereo. And it felt like the image, I already had that image because of my grandpa. So, they got me a vest and a little wicker cowboy hat,
Nice.
or a trucker cap, right? And then that music made me feel like that's the aesthetic, right? And so I was enamored. I mean, I was absolutely in love with that music, with that songwriter. And so, not too long later, my grandmother lived in West Duluth, and there's a stadium called Wade Stadium, and there was minor league baseball that happened there, right? So in the off season and for years when it wasn't used, they would have concerts there every now and then. And lo and behold, who should be playing live in concert? Willie Nelson. I could hear it from my grandmother's porch, but we were too poor to be able to afford a ticket, right? But I listened to it, and there was at that show, I wasn't cognizant of it at the time, but I think he encored that song. They made him play it 3 times. Everybody loved it so much. It was wow. Like, it made everybody's head explode. And so it was like, oh my God, that's not just me feeling that way. I mean, obviously I wasn't the only one that cared, about that song, but it felt like this is a mystical force in my life. And just over the years, it's been kind of like, people are like, what's your guilty music pleasure? Mine was always Willie Nelson, but Willie Nelson was always cool to like, right? So I don't know why it was a guilty pleasure. I think it was kind of, when country music had that big boom in the late 80s, early 90s. Yeah. And I mean, and Garth Brooks was everywhere, and my mom and my sister would listen to that. And at our house, I was always really into it, but around my friends, I couldn't be into it. They were like, country music is, yeah, I got treated like dirt for saying I liked country music, right? So it was always kind of a secret, but Willie Nelson was like that little flashlight under the blankets, reading the comic book kind of a deal for me. And I just really don't know of many songwriters that bring tears to my eyes just thinking about them, right? I mean, there's such a small, I don't know what it is. I mean, it's like, is he a shaman? What's the deal? Like, how come my heart is like, I don't know. There's just a beauty that I connected to. And right. So my friend Laura Oakes, who works at WCCO, I was like, Laura, I got to tell you the story, right? Because we struck up this friendship over music. And she was like, that's the most beautiful story. I have to somehow get you to meet Willie Nelson. So I narrated it all out on Twitter, and tried to, nothing ever really happened. Right. But whatever. I mean, it's, I'm not like, why do I deserve to meet? But this is a dynamic force in my life. I mean, like at a spiritual soul level, right? But people say, be careful if you meet your idols, they might be jerks. And I don't think that would be the case with him, but
I don't think so.
Maybe I'd be the jerk, maybe I'd do something.
Turnabout. That'd be awesome. Right. Willie Nelson was the first concert I ever went to.
Amazing.
Yeah. At the state fair. We went with my, I was a little kid. We went with my parents.
Right. Yeah.
And my whole family will just laugh because we were in grade school. I'm sure it was the same, that era. I'm sure it was the, and loved him. Just my dad loved him. And then subsequently we loved him. We're in the audience at the state fair. My mom was like, kids, you smell that?
Oh yeah. Right.
That's marijuana. Right. And we're like, what?
Right.
She will, that wouldn't have been her jam, but we're like, what? How do you know? But it was, I was saying, wasn't the last time I saw him, but it was I remember that so well. And I think he has that effect on so many people, especially if you were there for that country bubble, which I think was really when Urban Cowboy must have come out about that time, and there were people who knew who Mickey Gilley was before, and then who knew after, But it's
right. Well, what was that movie he was in? Was it Tender Mercies? Was that Willie Nelson in that? There was some movie where he played a country singer songwriter. He basically played himself.
The redheaded stranger was one, and then there was the Rose, something Rose.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe Tender Mercy. Yeah.
I should be Googling this, but I know that if I were clicking on the keys, it would be a giveaway. So
Yeah, exactly.
I'll
It's
just I don't know.
produced by.
Right? I don't know. And I don't know, and I'm okay with that.
There
I'm
you
not an
go.
expert. I'm not an expert on the guy, you know? Just would
Perfect.
have made him.
Perfect. But
I just love him.
that story's fantastic. I mean, I hope that. Well, I'll just send this to him.
Thanks. Right. Well, there's a reason we all came together for this thing, and it was to.
Wouldn't that be awesome? And I got to think
Right.
about who would I know that would know. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, who knows? Who knows? You know, I mean, it's possible maybe he's already heard the music. Remote chance, but hey, you know.
I was going to
That's all I
say,
would want, right?
yeah, get yourself on stage on his 4th of July picnic
All
in
right.
Austin.
I'll be in I'll be in Arnold's Park, Iowa the night before. So it'll be a little bit of a journey.
Make that
You
work.
can just have him send his people, pick you up. You're golden.
All right. Yeah, I'm into it. I mean, I'm not going to argue. This all sounds awesome.
So you already have a schedule, kind of.
Yeah. So yeah. I being that I play a bunch of different instruments and I love to play music with my friends. I ended up a few years back getting involved in a Rolling Stones cover band / tribute band. We call it a Rolling Stones appreciation band, right? Because we all just love them so much. It's called the Rolling Stoners. When pandemic time hit, we had a calendar full of springtime and summer dates. We're just not gonna, until we get the all clear, we're just canceling it all. And it was a pretty nice source of income. I mean, say what you will about cover bands, you know, this was a cover band that wasn't, it's not like we're these guys and it's like, this is something we love so dearly, almost rivaling that passion for Willie Nelson, you know, like this love. And it's just so amazing that these guys, I mean, these Rolling Stones wrote this music that is wonderful. Some of the lyrical content's a little tone deaf for nowadays, so we have to be like, do we play this? Do we talk it? Do we process with the audience? In any case, people, I mean, they love it and they eat it up. And so we were really hesitant to take anything too early, and there's no publicized show dates, but I mean, we've got a full calendar that as long as these places don't cancel and they're outdoor events, and we're looking at the numbers of people being vaccinated and whatnot, it's like, these might really happen. And so, yeah, there's one, I mean, I don't say what you will. I don't know if any of you are from Iowa. Is anybody from Iowa?
Nope.
No.
You're good.
Okay. So even if you were, you might question the politics of Iowa. So basically for my friends that 2 of them are from Iowa that are in that Rolling Stones cover band. And they're just like, there was no pandemic there. I mean, as in no consideration of like, no mask mandate. No, nothing was really shut down. But we canceled our gig last 4th of July. There's this revolving 4th of July show that we have at Arnold's Park. And it got canceled last year and we were fine with that. You know, I mean, we stayed connected via Zoom, but it's on for this year. Unless there's, I mean, a significant spike in cases. You know, we've got these loose contracts with these shows that it's like, if things look bad on our end, I mean, if we seem like we need to be cautious, then we're going to just go ahead and pull the plug, and all the promoters understand. So yeah, that explains being in Arnold's Park, Iowa, of all places, on July 3rd is a show. It's an annual fun thing, and you know, I love it. I think I got us off topic there.
No, there's no off topic.
Okay, good.
There's no off topic here. It just makes me so wistful because that'd be a fun night. You know?
Oh my God. I mean, really, I haven't seen my friend. I've seen them on like this, connecting over Zoom. I haven't seen these people in so long, and I love them so dearly. And here's the thing is I don't really have a regular cast of people that I play in Timbre Ghost with. It's changed. It's always changed. It's been a solo project. It's been me and a pedal steel player. It's been me and a full band. It's this ever evolving thing. But this Rolling Stoners thing has been this core group of people that I love them so much. And I miss that with Timbre Ghost. I'd like to find a foundational band in Missoula or in the area here. I've got the pedal steel guy, great new friend. You know how when you meet somebody, it's like, I already know you, right? There's not the kind of awkward getting to know the person. All right, I know you. mean, I want to have that relationship. I dearly miss that. And I think maybe that comes across in the music too. Yeah.
How did you find your pedal steel new
Craigslist.
guy?
Craigslist, reluctantly. I tried this thing called Bandmix too, which is just like a, put musicians together, kind of a Facebook social media platform kind of a deal. Didn't really get anything happening there, but yeah, I thought, well, here goes nothing because I'm probably going to get no results. And then Eric was the first person to reach out to me, and he shared some music that he recorded with a band previously living in Colorado, in Denver. And it's amazing player. And he's like, yeah, I'm in Missoula. Come on up. If you feel comfortable, come on up. Okay. And I'll admit I was a little nervous because I'm a little socially, I might seem gregarious and fun over the internet, but I'm also not, right. I need to be thoughtful in my responses to people. And I really spend a lot of time stuck in my own head. And, but what a great way to get out of that, to just drive 45 miles and meet somebody that could be, Craigslist has its history of introducing people to their doom. And
I was not that case. Where you're going to go with that.
Right. It wasn't that case. What an amazing player. His name is Eric Rudnick. He also plays guitar and dobro and things like that. And I'm hoping to get some decent enough shows to travel back to Minnesota and have him come with. But I also do have a friend who plays, who I've played plenty with back in Minneapolis, named Canner Price, and he's a pretty primo. If you've known anybody that plays country-esque music to country music in the Twin Cities, Canner's been playing the pedal steel with them most likely. Brianna Koshka, James Lewis, and probably countless others that I'm just not thinking of right now. That one guy. He put on.
I know him.
Right. And it was I'll remember like 10 minutes from now.
You could write a song with two pedal steel. That would be
like a dueling banjos kind of a thing.
Well, that would be amazing. Not gonna lie.
I mean, that instrument is the feelings machine. There's people are like, there's people talk about living in a pre 9/11, post 9/11 world, a pre Tupac, post Tupac world. Well, for me, musically, there's me being a musician in a pre playing with a pedal steel player life, and then there's the paradigm shift of playing, and I don't want to play music without that being involved at some level, because it's just like dripping with expression, dripping with emotive, weeping to joyful. I mean, you could play something that'll break somebody's heart, or you can play something that'll make somebody kick the couch over and dance, right? This is an amazing instrument, and that's kind of what this record that I just finished is a way of kind of introducing that sentiment, that feeling. And there's stuff on it. It's like, wait, you can dance to this. Uh-oh. Right. Uh-oh. Are people going to dance? Cause it's got, some of these songs are at the right tempo. And if that happens, that's great. Because I think maybe after spending so much time of not being able to be close with people, maybe we'll get into these situations where there's live music happening and we pair up and we don't care and we're not socially conscious about it, or self-conscious. We'll be socially conscious, but yeah.
You definitely have to send us a few, because you're killing me on telling all of this information. I'm like,
Great. So I'll send the first song on the record that I was talking about, with the smoke, the pluming explosion, and the fancy speeding car. It could be a helicopter or a jet engine too, or a jet airplane. It's some kind of thing catapulting with momentum behind it.
Some sort of speedy device, right?
Right. Absolutely. Right.
Well, I'm going to say you could always invite some of your Duluth people up there. Get them corralled, get your self out there, your network expanding, and just bring them together.
Here's a cool thing about where I'm located geographically is there's this great tour circuit that starts up around, we'll say it starts in Missoula, then you loop through Spokane, Washington, you go to Seattle, and you just do the whole West Coast. I mean, I'm looking so forward to being able to start planning tours. And are you familiar with a musician and songwriter named Mississippi Mike Wolf? He lives in Duluth, Mississippi Mike, but he comes from Louisiana originally. And then he lived in San Francisco for so many years. And, he had this great following, still does. He's such an endearing, loving, wonderful, best songwriter I know. And then he played guitar. He plays guitar with Actual Wolf, with Eric Pollard. And Mississippi Mike and I got to do a tour together, just the two of us. And basically talked each other's ears off, and we're like, I love you, man. You're the best. No, you're the best. Like, just made this amazing bond instantly. And I'm looking forward to being able to get together in a car with him, with whether it's just the two of us or in a band, and do that circuit, because that's, he and those musicians, they're just like, yeah, we do that all the time. We used to do that all the time. It's not even a big deal. So I'd like to get those Duluth musicians out here. And I think everybody that I know back home, whether home is Minneapolis or Duluth, has gotten at least one invitation. Like, please come out here. Please, it's so magical. Please come out here as soon as you can.
You can be the linchpin that kind of gets Minnesota, Montana closer together musically. Whole towns from Ireland have moved from here to Rosemount or different area. It just takes one person who's got one room or one connection.
Okay.
And that.
Yeah. Right. All right.
I really think that that's the case. And then, each one teach one, each one tell one,
Right. Right. I'll be honest. I'd love to have some friends. I've got friends, but they're far away, and I've got coworkers, and they're, those are my people too. But there's a separation that happens by choice. They know I'm a musician, but I have to kind of conserve my energy for work and for art. And so those people I get to see plenty of hours in the day, but they're all wonderful people. I feel like I'm going to kind of go to this path. Like, they're not the same as friends. They are friends, and we're all friendly, but
just a different connection.
Mm-hmm. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. You know how it is with coworkers. It's the people that they're great, but you spend so much time with people that you wouldn't choose to be spending your time with. You don't get to see your family as much as you see people over in HR or and I work in a behavioral health setting. I do alcohol and drug counseling. I kind of, I work with people who are in all stages of considering recovery to really doing well to, the whole thing. Right. Yeah. I don't know where I'm going.
Well, and that is very engaging work. that could drain a person.
Right. And I think that's what I'm getting at with, there's that wall that I have to draw. If I had, I'm always going to be able to access that huge place of empathy. Right. And that's what drew me there. Right. Life experience, empathy. That's always going to be there. And I'm not I'm professional for life. This is a thing that I stumbled into through some decisions, and it really helps pay student loan debt and house stuff. And, it keeps life going at a comfortable enough level. Right. But if I could just be a bohemian musician, awesome troubadour, wake up whenever I want, go to bed when I want, but also make lists and get things done. Right. And keep a tidy house. In a heartbeat. But the reality is that that's not, I have to kind of consider, is that an identity that I want? Do I really want that? Would I be happy? What's success? And, success to me is just changed drastically over the years, the definition, but it's become a more comfortable thing it's not, I'm not lowering the bar. I'm defining for myself where I get that feeling of just soul level satisfaction and really feel like what I'm doing is meaningful and pure and is putting more good into the world than drawing resources to feed my ego at the end of the day. And it turns out in show business, there's a lot of, clamoring to get to the top that includes people who are driven by ego. And that doesn't mean that there's not altruistic, amazing people out there doing great art, but I mean, it's a business, right? And if I don't have a product to put in somebody's store, I can't feel, I don't know, man. I'd like to be busier with music and whatnot, but also I don't feel like it's a failure to not be. I think, you know, now that I'm on the topic of success, like I don't necessarily want to be like famous or sought after. I just want to be busy and have something to do with music. You know, it's the only time I really feel like I'm communicating, you know, in a way that's like, yes, exactly. That's exactly what I meant to do.
Yeah.
By the way, congratulations. 10 years.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, so 10 years ago, and the years leading up to it, you know, the 3-4 years prior, I was very secretly alcoholic. And, you know, growing up, I had like I had plenty of examples in the household of, like you're talking about being at Willie Nelson concert and going, what's that smell? Like, I'm like, I know that smell. I know that tray is under the couch. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
the weird,
right.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, you know, so I grew up around that, you know, did some experimenting and, you know, had an on again, off again relationship with whatever substance over the years growing up. You know, it was always something I could walk away from, but sometime in my late 20s, early 30s, the circumstances that I was in, I found myself turning more to self-destruction, and I made some very not kind choices to my partner at the time. Very secretive, you know, not a good partner, you know, and it really imploded. It all came out. I was, you know, I mean, without getting too detailed, because this is another person's story to share as well. I just, you know, I was exposed as like, what are you doing? You're unfaithful. You know, like, what's going on? And I'm like, well, here's this bottle that I keep in the closet. I'm, you know, like I'm suffering, I'm struggling, and all these decisions I'm making are only my responsibility, and it's all my doing, but I'm somehow able to make it okay in the moment by just poisoning myself, right? And I think that well, I've got a thought that I want to take this off to here. Uh-oh. Getting a little FaceTime message or a little call coming in. So I don't know if that sound came through or not, but I totally had that loud. That thing came up, right? So this is going to lead to a side point here. But yeah, 10 years. I was that same partner also was very kind and was like, I think you need to go to treatment. You need to at least talk to somebody, right? And this was a conversation that I'd had with myself for 3 straight years of intoxication. Like, I have the phone in my hand, but I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. Like, I'm struggling and I'm hurting people. Like, I'm killing myself, and I'm making these choices that I just know are like the opposite of what I would ever want to do to somebody, because I have a big caring heart, right? It, you know, I destroyed a part of my life, but it also led to us splitting and finding the life we really were supposed to find. And so my ex-wife, I wish her nothing but the best and success in life. And I know she's happy and has kids and things like that. Like, amazing. Because here I am on my own path now. And I can look back and forget that it's, oh my God, it's been 10 years. Like, oh my God, how did that happen? Because each year before, it's like, oh, it's coming up. This one is just like, oops, I guess I must be in some kind of a flow here, some kind of a rhythm, which feels incredible. And, you know, over the years, I've kind of looked at recovery as, at first it's like somebody says it goes this way, and you do these things and you follow these steps and you go through this thing, and eventually you say the right words, and then you do the right worksheets and stuff, and you're better, right? Then you're sober. But I mean, it doesn't work like that. Like I talked about gray area in life. I mean, I had to take a piece from here, a piece from there, and it's been a process of understanding my relationship with substances, right? Are there certain ones that can be in my life? Sure. Are there certain ones that I know are a death sentence or would doom me to make spiral out of control? Yeah. I mean, I could count, we could have a dialogue about this right now, and I could explain all the ways they'd be terrible for me to get into. But I'm also an advocate for THC use and the legalization, the decriminalization, expunging of records, all this stuff. And it's legal medicinally and recreationally here in Montana. And the culture is so different. And working as a treatment professional, I get to have conversations with people like, it's okay. that you use THC. If you're going from being an intravenous heroin user to like, the only relief I can have right now is from smoking a little bit, it's like, I'm glad you're alive. Smoke on, you know, like, so but anyway, I'm kind of getting off topic again. What I wanted to mention is that when people talk, there's a lot of abusers being outed. There's a lot of, you know, in the Minneapolis music scene everywhere, right? And a lot of what people are falling back on is like, I was way into drugs. I was drinking at the time. And like, I can't speak for anybody else's journey, but I knew myself, I am acting in ways that I wouldn't, I mean, like, this isn't me, you know? And then dumping on top of that, the chemicals to get rid of the guilt and the pain, right? And I don't want to make any excuses. I own up to it. I mean, it's just like, you know, in the scale of severity, it's like, I guess I can't compare myself to other people, but you know, it's like, yeah, in any case, I don't know. I feel like I want to share details, but I don't, you know, like, I don't know if it serves if it serves a story, if it serves a purpose, absolutely, you know, like, and I guess since I've like already started talking about it, there was a lot of like talking like sexual talk and obsession with pornography and stuff like that behind the scenes going on, right? And that's what backfired on me. That's what really got me outed, and that gave me an avenue to then talk about, like, I am so addicted to alcohol right now that I'm sick if I don't drink, and I'm sick with guilt if I don't drink, and like, you know, but I wanted to make sure to say that, because as people get outed, you know, their story is their story to say. I'm happy to say that I don't feel like I was, you know, there was an abuse situation. I mean, I'm a person that has experienced abuse, you know, right? And then it's, imagine like, you know, it's just, this whole thing it's really, I'm so glad that it's in the public dialogue right now. And I think that more men and women, more people just in general, you know, wherever they identify on the spectrum of gender, whether they subscribe to it or not, could just say like, yes, I really behaved poorly. Because you just have to own it. Like, and you know, whether it was just talking dirty with some people, if it was full on sexual assault, like, you know, like there's a scale of severity, right? But you got to take a step onto that ladder and just like be genuine. Like, just, you know, there's so much suffering in the world. And it's like, why do you, I don't understand how people can like try to deflect it. Just own it. Like, if you've caused suffering, the way to redemption is to go through a process, a redemptive journey. And it starts with just being honest with people and yourself. I mean, I'm no expert. I sound like, I'm like, there's no experts. How many do you meet in life? I'm an expert on guiding myself into like, I just need to be better, right? I just need to do better. And, you know, here I am, 10 years of 10 years of growing and really learning to become an advocate for others, not only for myself, but for people who are marginalized, or people who have experienced abuse, people who have experienced substance dependence, people who have struggled with mental health issues over the years, things like that, you know, like it's, and you don't have to have experience or proximity, but it does help. All you have to do is have empathy, you know, and that's, Jesus, could we use more of that right now? Yeah, obviously. Yeah. And I'm perfectly happy. I don't feel like, oh great, now I shared this stuff. Like, I've been open about my struggles with everything. And I'm, you know, I think that, you know, the veil of like, who is this guy doing this interview? Who is this musician? Who does he think that, like, that's a piece of me. As much as I want to be like, I'm this cool troubadour, I'm also like, I'm the guy that fucked a lot of things up, pardon my language. No, right?
We're good.
You know? Good. We don't have any FCC considerations.
No FCC.
Or anything. Okay, great.
No, but I do think that is a beautiful thing to connect with people too, is to own your shit, is to tell your story, is to share your struggle and coming out on the other side through your music. Just, you know, you're not always good, you're not always bad or whatever. And if you get yourself out of it and you can show them too. I mean, 10 years is huge.
I was going to die. from drinking, right? And that's not a joke, and that's not a ploy. That's legitimately like, vomiting blood, withdrawal syndrome, like, the whole, just constantly poisoned, right? I think it's great. Like if I were in a position, maybe today I could have a glass of wine and be fine, but I also feel like, wow, I used up all those tokens. Like that's fine. I don't ever have to feel what it feels. I know it is such a cellularly deeply ingrained level what a hangover experience is, that it's like, I don't think I ever need to do that. But I would, people that are into wine, awesome. People that craft beer, cocktails, all that, like I've had no problem being parallel or adjacent to it. Yes, it's 10 years, like, oh my God, 10 years, alcohol free. It's funny when you pull back the blanket of that, all the little critters that come scurrying out, and it's like, I thought I did all the work. And then there's like, you're still crazy. So maybe go work on that. Right. Right. You're still deficient in quite a few ways. Maybe go destroy that ego. Right.
But it's generous for you to even offer up the story, because somebody will hear it and it'll be the right time for them to hear it. And
sure,
I think the idea that redemption is through honesty is
right.
And I think there are a lot of we have talked with a lot of survivors. There was that Me Too Minneapolis album with most of the artists on that one. I think that what you can give to other people who've been around, and we've all been in one capacity or another, we've all had days of one, to be honest with the people around you.
Right.
Whether it's, being crabby with my kid because I got too much work, whatever it, I mean, we're not always, as Heather says, we're not all good. We're not all bad. It's that, but just being honest with it. And then once somebody's honest with it, I think it's, then, well, it's funny because then you're on that more simple path, the more simple format. You're not trying to, that you're using for the music now. It's easier to use that for life too. Right.
Yeah. Nothing to hide behind. It's all laid out on the table. And, I mean, when we're talking about honesty, I think of the word humanity too, and they both start and end with similar letters. And, right. I mean, that's how we keep in touch with that most valuable asset we have, is our humanity, is through being honest, through building community. Like this is stuff that I've always desired to be a part of. Because, I mean, I mentioned, like, I'm kind of a quiet guy. I'm not super extroverted, and that comes with a price. I mean, I don't have a lot of industry friends or whatever. I'm not like the scenester that's at, getting into shows all the time. And it's like, oh, you got to know this person. But in a sense, I mean, it's been a self-preservation tool, because now here I am. I've done a lot of work, and I continue to do work on myself, and I can kind of like say, oh my God, I've got this transformation, and I'm proud of me, and I believe in what I do, and it's just and it's only one facet of who I am too. That's the thing. It's like to step away from, like, I'm a musician as an identity, and just go, there's some stuff I do, but I'm also I'm great at making popcorn, like I mentioned, and I'm a list maker, right? I love to climb the side of a mountain and hopefully not experience vertigo too bad. And when I say climb a mountain, I'm not talking about putting the straps on and stuff like that. I mean, like, go up a hiking path. I'm not an adventurous person in that regard. I'm what people would say is I'm just fearful, to put it simply. So I'm not skydiving, I'm not riding a motorcycle, but I'm
Yet?
Not yet. I mean, I'm worried about riding a motorcycle. It just seems like, what if I fall, right? Which is why I never got good at skateboarding. I had the clothes and I looked the part, but I didn't want to fall and break my arm. So maybe I'll ride a motorcycle someday. Who knows? We'll see.
I have a lot, and a friend on Twitter today had posted about, she hates to go on group bike rides because people don't understand just how afraid she is to fall. I said, I didn't know that about you. We have to bike together.
Right.
I'm the one with the brakes up the hill, because I'm
right.
It's too fast. It's too fast.
Right.
There is They're just different ways to be.
Right. Absolutely. Right. Yeah. And I mean, there are different ways to be, and there are a multitude of ways to be as an individual too. I feel like I'm getting to know that more and more about myself over the years. And the more I'm kind of discarding the parts that I was seeking value through, I'm finding parts of myself that I see the value in, right? And playing music, it's kind of for so many years it felt like, why doesn't anybody, see what I have? Why doesn't, I was looking for validation from outside for so long, and I've had some real breakthroughs over the years and some moments of insight that have, I think, forever changed me. And some of that stuff has become less and less important. Although, I mean, if I could be playing to rooms full of 200 to 2,000 people many nights in a row, that would be great too. But I'm a home person too. I wouldn't want to be touring 300 nights a year. I'd like to have a couple weeks on, a couple weeks off, kind of a nice schedule, come back down, do some laundry, cook, hang out, go to Costco. What? There's a part of me that likes to go to Costco. I mean, is that terrible? It's a routine. We eat a lot of peanut butter in this household. Hence,
Fair. No, I like the idea of that. It's, you don't need to be famous. You just want to be busy. You just want to be doing what you're doing.
Right. Yeah.
We like doing, but it's you.
Right. It's great to be able to break even on something too. Like if you put a little something into it, it's nice to make a little bit of money back. And so that's kind of where I'm at with music. It's like, if I can put out a record and some people pay for it, cool. What's more redemptive is to have it be like you're talking about, catching the feeling of a song and being mindful and listening to it. I've had some conversations with people from different parts of the world that are like, I just love what you do. And it's a small number of people, but it's like, that's better than filling, trying to connect with a huge room full of people, But again, I mean, I've been on stages that have had a great audience, and it's like, well, there's nothing like this feeling too. So they're all good, just feeling understood and valued is huge though. And for a long time, it was a matter of like, why aren't people thinking why can't people see me? Like, visibility has been huge. And it's funny to say as a, straight white guy, like, I feel invisible. But I mean, I think given some context, the way I grew up, I mean, I've on one hand got all the, just being by my biological makeup, it's like, oh, you can go get shows anywhere and be in front of people anytime. There's no challenge for you. I'm just like another white dude, right? And so that's something that I've very mindfully been, not trying to push my product too much, where it's like, there's a lot of people who don't have any exposure at all. And like, why am I going to compete for the airwaves or anything right now? Like, for attention, like, no way. I'll just do my own thing. And if people come along, great. I don't want to take up stage space for people that are like, what about us though? What about us? Right. I mean, nobody wants to see my boring ass, and I know that, whether or not that's the truth, but it's like, yeah, like, let other people's voices be heard. My struggle to be heard is it's my own thing, but like, it doesn't mean that it's more meaningful than theirs. Like, I've always been a quiet dude lurking in the shadows. Cool. Let's give other people the spotlight for sure. I'm going to turn the light on in here. It just got very dark. One thing I noticed about moving here is it stays lighter longer. It feels like, I don't know. I can't explain it. We're basically at a similar latitude as where you all are in Minnesota, but for some reason it's lighter later here. But in any case, I'm going to turn this light on real quick.
Oh, that's much better.
Oh.
All right.
Much see you again. Well, no, that's good. It's good.
Great.
Yeah. No, there is a difference when it's an individual not being visible and a whole, it is. And it's a weird time as far as all that goes too.
Right. Right. Yeah. When there's systems in place to marginalize people and make them invisible, there's established systems in entertainment, in government, in culture, right? Yeah, then it's like, I don't want to take up any stage space, but being visible as in being acknowledged as a person with feelings, like, and you know, there's enough childhood trauma in my story to kind of explain how a guy like me, who it seems like you're not in poverty, you've got a job, you have access to health care, you can not worry about the police shooting you when you leave your home, right? These are all things that I don't take for granted. But I mean, as far as feeling invisible, it's I mean, there's just complex little bits of PTSD that build up over the years, and it's like how do I feel so worthless and like, you know, like where did this come from? I'm like a kind, loving person, but I turn it so harshly inward at times, and that's been a learning process because I can't live that way any longer. And you know, the more I kind of have these insights and get to understand who I am and be comfortable with it, the better. And you know, and I keep, the more that I am on that process, I keep meeting people who are kind of experiencing this great weird serendipity with things in life, just like it's getting better. Oh my God, right? And part of it getting better is like giving to others and being present for others. For me, I mean, you know, I think I've spent all my time worrying about who I am and what my identity is and like goals that I have and whatnot, to just be like, forget about it, man. Like, if I could put all the energy that I've spent late at night worrying about the things that aren't going the way that I want them, I could power Western Montana for the rest of eternity. There would be no taxing on the power grid in California. There'd be no, like, I just have to stop. Like, no, I can't just, like, are you kidding me? Right. That's part of the journey for me.
Well, and I think it sounds like you have to follow your own music. Find that simple, you know, find that simple format. Redemption through the honesty, the storytelling, and obviously the connections that you make. As you said, it would be nice to have a forever band, but the connections that you're making with people are, you know, that is another. I mean, I think that an amazing
it's
tool.
Invaluable.
Yeah.
Right. There's no, you can't, I mean, I would rather have a heart full of great memories and feel loved and give that to other people than to be like, you know, on a magazine. To be, I mean, you know, or an online publication. I don't know if people read magazines or not anymore. But, yeah.
Either way, yeah.
There is a thing though. There is a piece of me that's like, I just wouldn't mind if more people were like, if let's say that I was like, hey, so-and-so, small, very meager, modest record label. I don't have any huge expectations here. Do you like this thing? Would you help me kind of just get it in front of some more ears? I've already paid for it. Like, you know, I would be fine if somebody was like maybe somewhere in the secretly group of labels that they have. They were like, okay, we like what you do. Like, thanks, let's work together. Like, cool. I don't have huge expectations. I just want to, you know, help me, you know, like when you get the dandelion things and you blow them and it goes everywhere. Like, help me do that, except with what I do. Right? You don't have to dump resources and into, like, it's not you know, don't waste money on me. Just help me kind of get to like the other me's and you's out there that are going to appreciate it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You know, I'm not, you know, I'm not a exactly. I'm not a virtuoso with anything that I do. And that's part of my process too, is like, oh, I know there are mistakes, and those are the things that I am okay with. Like, I wish I had an angelic voice. I wish I could sing like Aretha Franklin. I wish I could sing like George Jones. I wish I could sing like, who, you know, you name it, Ray Charles, right? But my thing is my thing, you know.
Yeah.
And I hear it as a unique voice in a sea of a lot of people that sound alike, and I'm like, oh, those little weird bumps and things on my voice, that's what makes me me. Great. So how can I sharpen that tool then and use it to its best ability?
Well, and Willie Nelson is the best example.
Are you kidding me? Right.
Yeah. Neil, I mean, that's a voice I love, but that's
right.
He's not getting the solos in church necessarily.
Right.
You know.
Exactly.
Right. It's the uniqueness. It's the stamp of the.
Right.
Well, now you just make me want to. We're super looking forward to the album now.
I'll send a couple songs. I'll send to the email that we set this all up through.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I think I've got the stuff uploaded already to Google Drive. So I'll just
Well,
share a
we'll
couple
look
files.
forward to it, and then
Cool.
well, and then we'll look forward to the time where we can share it with everybody. So for
Yeah,
folks who
absolutely.
for folks who are listening, where are the good places to find you and your music online?
So the best place, the landing spot would be Bandcamp. So timberghost.bandcamp.com. And Timbre is spelled Timbre, like the word timbre. Kind of long story, but pretty short story. I told a friend of mine back in Duluth, I was like, hey, I'm calling this thing Timbre Ghost. And he goes, oh yeah? What do you think about switching the R and the E around? And it was like, whoa. And then, then it's like, ooh, it's artsy now. So Timbre Ghost, here's where it comes from. There's a realty company. They sell rural properties and they sell acreage of land in central Minnesota. If you're driving between Duluth and the Twin Cities,
Moose
you'll see their
Lake.
billboards. Right around there.
That's
Yep,
that
you
one
got it.
at Moose Lake.
Right.
Yes.
So
Okay.
I always thought, oh man, what a super cool name for a band. And then over the years, I suggested it and people are always like, no, come on. So finally it was just like, it's just me. Then I got to use it.
Awesome.
So
it's a great name.
Timbre Ghost, timberghost.bandcamp.com. There is a timberghost.com website. But I mean, the Bandcamp page has links to everything, at Timbre Ghost on Twitter, at Timbre Ghost on Instagram. There's a YouTube channel. I don't think I have enough followers on YouTube. Thank you for doing the follow today. I don't think I have enough followers to create my own unique URL that would just be, /Timbre Ghost. It's this weird string of whatever. That's fine. You mentioned doing video. That's one area I think I could really step up the game, is put more content on YouTube. But I also don't feel like content for the sake of content does anything other than just create more noise. So I'm kind of reluctant to be just like every thought that, no filter, just here's every thought, like here's every picture of me. Here's a new one. Here's another one. Here's another, like the temptation's there, right? But I don't, it feels disingenuous. I like to wait and formulate a thought and then go, this is something I want to share. This is a photo I think it would be cool that people might like, So if you're looking for like mega loads of content there, it's not really, I stay up on social media, but yeah, it's so timberghost.bandcamp.com. If you want to have a fun laugh, maybe check out my Twitter profile, or you want to talk about some serious heartfelt stuff. I try to use that stuff in a way that is actual genuine communication too, because it's a great tool for marketing, but I'm not Pepsi, or nobody really like you. If I say I've got a show, people are like, okay, cool. And then you say it again and again, like I got a record. People are like, I don't care. Let's hear about, whatever the big trending thing is. Let's talk about that thing.
Yeah.
Let's beat this dead horse. Like, right. So I try to just have like a genuine, like, I'm really saying this because I mean it, kind of a dialogue with people on social media. And I find it way more redemptive, because then I find that I'm clicking on it less to get a dopamine rush, and I'm actually offering that out to somebody instead of just being like, what is it? I need more. But I'm guilty of that too. I mean, it's real easy to get swept up.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, and let me just say, it was real hard for me to not comment on this Cinnamon Toast Crunch thing that happened. I blocked it though. I'm just like, this is garbage. Why are we, like, I don't even want to stir that whole thing up, because it turns out that's a bad dude. Right. And I just got a feeling from that whole thing, like this whole weird, like, what do they call it? When something goes viral, like,
yeah, that's
not the goal. Like going viral, a virus goes away. Hopefully sooner than later.
I was just gonna say, no one wants a virus. That's the
right. Yeah. So that's, I don't know. I try to put out real content, It's not just be like, look, here's me again.
Yeah.
Right. But you'll probably see more of those, because I'm getting a pretty sweet hat collection too. So
awesome.
Maybe I'm going to up the hat content. Right. Yeah.
Well, that's part of a conversation that's good to have.
Right. Absolutely. Right. Yeah. I think that's pretty much, that's really, I've got a Patreon page that I started. I haven't actually officially published it. And it feels like, well, it would be dumb not to kind of launch that around the time that this new record comes out.
Right.
And so I'm aiming
for,
I've got a time frame I'd like to put it out in, but I'm also like, it's up to you, universe, because, if I say I want it to come out in August, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, a pipe burst here. I have to use some of my music making money on that. Won't happen though. Luckily, I have a separate music account, life account,
Nice.
right? But you know, it's just something comes up and it's like, timeline. You don't get the test pressings back from for the vinyl. Like it's, oh no, and rushing against the timeline. You know, like if somebody's got a timeline that's a record company and you're listening right now and you want to help put this thing out, I'm into your timeline. That's all I'm saying. But there's no rush on this thing. Yeah.
You're okay to dance, but you don't want to pick the number. I think that's perfect.
Right. Yeah. So timbreghost.bandcamp.com. There's YouTube, there's Instagram, there's a Facebook page that I rarely, rarely check. Just I think I keep it active long enough to keep the Russian trolls interested, or whoever's accessing all of my personal information, like to just let them know, yeah, I'm still alive. You can use my stuff, I guess.
Still go for me. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'm still a living entity. I don't think I'm leaving anything out. Yeah. That's about it. I mean, really, what else is
start with Bandcamp? I think you nailed it. I think you got it. Yes. And I will share those in the notes. So that's good.
Awesome.
But Dustin, this has been so much fun to get to know you better and to learn the story behind the music that, that I took the time to, it's been so much. This has been great. And we're really genuinely waiting. I really wanted to come out and to share it with other people and to have a conversation about it. Yeah.
Imagine just, if everybody was like, hey, wait a minute. I've heard this person and I like, something's going, like, let's get that happening. Like, let's get that buzz happening, that vibe for sure. And sincerely though, thank you for asking me to do the interview and for listening and for having thoughtful conversation and asking me to be a part of it, because there's nothing I value more. There are things, right? It's in that, it's in that, like that set of like real core values. Like, I just want to connect with people. I want to not only be seen and heard, I want to see and hear others and like really be just a piece of something meaningful, because who knows when it's gone.
Yeah. That's a perfect note. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dustin.